Hey, Shalom, Yabashim Yashab Rakatah. Ashar, the Feast of Dedication. Can y'all brothers hear me? Cool. Waiting for another brother to come in, Azariah. Supposed to be popping in. Hey, Shalom, y'all Satba. Shalom, Tazadak. All right, Shalom Akiyam, Yahbashim Yashab Brakatah. So, of course, y'all know we're here to celebrate the Feast of Dedication. And Brother Azariah should be hopping in any second now. So, how y'all brothers doing? Con. Yeah, we're gonna be better once this captivity is over, man. This is one of the captivities that we were in, and we actually, in fact, let me see if I can go to it. Hold on for one moment. Let me actually pull out this layout and see if I can remove this. And all right, yeah, I'm just waiting for Azariah to come in. So just hold on tight. I'm getting a few precepts up, and we'll get up and running.
Con.
Okay, you here? Cool.
No doubt.
All right, so first of all, we want to definitely give all glory and praises to our Heavenly Father, Yahweh.
Yahweh.
In the name of our Lord and Savior, Yahweh Shai, for giving us, grace and mercy for us to be here another day, and for us to hopefully see the downfall, of our oppressor. And, one of the times that we did that in time past was, the situation with the Feast of Dedication. As we know, even the Passover is tied to the downfall of the Egyptians. For the Feast of Dedication, it deals with the rededication of the temple. So the Feast of Dedication, the temple was rededicated after it was taken over by the Edomites when they got into Jerusalem. They defiled the temple by doing abominable acts and making the people do abominable things within the temple. And Maccabees, the Maccabean family, led by the what is known as the Hasmonean dynasty, later known in scholarly history. They rounded up the people that were righteous, and the men that were righteous, and fought valiantly against the Greeks, and were able to push them out and rededicate the temple. And it was a glorious victory that they had, and it led to a long independence within the Greek Empire. The Judea was considered an independent state for a period of time until the Roman Empire, which is a whole nother discussion. So let me see if I can share this. Let me try to share the screen real quick. Let me go here. Okay, so hopefully it should work. All right, can y'all hear me? Okay.
Yeah, Con, you sound clear.
All right, cool. All right, so what we're going to do, we're just going to go briefly just into the prophetic history concerning what was going to happen. So as you all know, that Daniel was a prophet during the time of the Babylonian captivity, and he was given, prophetic understanding through the dreams that King Nebuchadnezzar was having. And one of the visions that he had was of the goat that would come. So he had various visions of like the statues. Y'all know the statue of the head of gold, chest of silver, and then you go further on, you got the bronze thighs and the legs of iron, and then you also have the vision with the different animals as well. Okay, that would represent these coming empires that would have our people in captivity. And as you go down, we'll just go ahead and get straight to the point. This is Daniel chapter 8 and verse 5. And as I was considering, behold, a he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. And he came to the ram that had two horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his two horns. There was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up four notable ones towards the four winds of heaven. Okay, so this particular breakdown is talking about the Greek Empire. Okay, so the Greek Empire is represented by the goat. The Medo-Persian Empire was represented by a ram. Now, the reason why the ram had two horns, because it was a dual empire with two different nations that ruled it: the Medes, and the Persians. So when you get into the feast, before the Feast of Dedication happens, we have to understand what happened historically prior to the things that happened that led to us now celebrating the Feast of Dedication. So the ram, represented by the Medo-Persian Empire, was taken down by the animal that you see from an allegorical or symbolic standpoint. The goat was represented by the Greeks, and the horn in between that on the goat was representative of Alexander the Great. So that's why it says here that on verse 8, therefore the he goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up four notable ones toward the four winds of heaven. And we'll break that down as well. But did you have anything to say, Azariah?
Nah, that's spot on.
All right, gone. All right. So what I'm gonna do, actually, let me do this. I'm gonna go into Maccabees. So this is the prophecy being fulfilled right here. Second Maccabees chapter 1. Let me see here. Actually, it was first Maccabees. Let me go there. My bad. Clicked on the wrong one. All right, so first Maccabees chapter 1. And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persian and the Medes. So you see here, Darius was king of the Persian and Medes. That is the two horns that was represented on the ram, okay? That he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece. So it says, so Alexander, the son of Philip, took down Darius and the Persian and Medes empire. And that's how the he goat ended up taking down the ram, as according to prophecy in the book of Daniel. Now, the book of Daniel, that prophecy was like about, a couple of centuries before it happened, showing you that the Most High controls all the empires that come and reign on the earth, that the Most High can show even down to, the man and how he would fall. So what happened is, the horn that waxed great, which was Alexander, ended up dying and then parted his empire unto four other notable ones. So it's going to actually go into that as we read further down. So in verse 2, and made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth and went through the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him. Whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up. And he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. And after these things he fell sick and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, these were the notable ones, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. Okay, so he parted his kingdom into four different parts, which we'll get into. And he says, so Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. And his servants bare rule every one in his place. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. Okay. So you see there that after Alexander conquered the known world at the time, and had died, he split up his empire into four. The empire was split up into four parts. So four of his friends that he came up with, they took each a piece of the empire. And once that happened, the evils on the earth multiplied. Okay. So now we're going to go into who this little horn is. Okay. So this right here is going to go into the prophecy concerning the what happened in the book of Maccabees, which led to the Feast of Dedication. So this is Daniel chapter 8 and verse 9. And out of one of them came forth a little horn. Okay, so out of one of the four, okay, the four notable ones, all right, came out a little horn. Okay, the reason why it's called a little horn, because he was not as great, and it wasn't as great or as known as Alexander. Okay, but he was prominent. Horn meaning he was a ruler or had power. Okay, that's what the term for horn is when it comes to, like, prophetic understanding. And so out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great toward the south and toward the east and toward the pleasant land. And it waxed great even to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the hosts and of the stars to the ground and stamped upon them. Okay, so this allegory for the host of heaven is not actually talking about the actual constellations of the stars. It's talking about the children of Israel. Okay, because the children of Israel, there's allegories of the children of Israel being likened unto the stars, the constellations. So the people that were stamped upon, he couldn't stamp upon actual stars. We have to think to ourselves, he can't stomp on stars. He was basically, he had destroyed many of the people. Okay, so they invaded the land and they killed a lot of the people and basically, caused a lot of destruction in the land, which we'll get into. This is verse 11. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the hosts, and by him the daily sacrifices were taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. So the daily sacrifices was taken away, and this is where they were doing different abominable things within the temple. And host was given him against the daily sacrifices by reason of transgression, and it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto the certain saint which spake, how long shall the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden under foot? And he said unto me, 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. So that's basically what happened. Is after a while, when the Maccabees and the rest of the righteous brothers that were there at that time were able to overthrow the Greeks, they were able to cleanse and rededicate the temple. And that's the prophecy in the book of Daniel concerning it. So any brothers got any questions so far?
Khan, I do got a precept, if I may, to go into what you was talking about with the Israel being likened onto the stars.
Okay, Khan.
This is how the Most High said he's going to multiply them. It's Genesis 26:4. And I will make thy seed to multiply as the stars of heaven, and will give unto thy seed all these countries, and in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. So it's going to the promise of how he's going to multiply them as the stars. Obviously there's a lot, so it's it's unmeasurable how you'll be able to count the number of the children of Israel.
Khan. So yeah, as a host of heaven, or as the stars. That's right. And in fact, I'll get another precept as well to show that also. So that's so that Daniel 8, it was a dark saying, for the way it was spoken at that time. But with the precepts like the brother just brought out, which is a good precept, it'll kind of give you that understanding. So here is Revelation chapter 12 and verse 1 says, and there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And who are those 12 stars? It represents the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay, so cast some of the stars into the ground. It basically is talking about Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, because those are the three tribes that were there. In fact, there's another prophecy that also says about a third part of the stars, okay, were taken, which is right here in verse 4. Okay, it says a third part of the stars of heaven were cast to the earth. Okay, and that goes right back to this right here. Okay, when you go into that horn, okay, cast to the earth, cast to the ground. So he cast some of the hosts and of the stars to the ground. In Revelation 12, again, when you go down to this red dragon, okay, which they're saying it's Satan, but we'll break it down the right way, as far as why it's red, right? Is because red represents Esau. So when you go here, It says in verse 4, and his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, which is Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, that was still in the land at the time of the Maccabean revolt, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. Okay. All right. So far, so good, Akium. Y'all got any questions? All right. Move on. So now we're going to go into who this person was. Okay. We're going to go into what happened to the temple and all that. So now we're going to go back to First Maccabees chapter 1. And let's see. Okay, so that little horn in Daniel 8 is going to start right here. So in verse 10, and there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been in hostage of Rome. And he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. So at this point, they've been ruling for like 137 years. I believe the Greek Empire, and this is, I want to get y'all on the timeline of this, right? So here is the Wikipedia on Antiochus Epiphanes. Let's see if I can increase the size a little bit. Okay. So as you see here, he ruled the Seleucid Empire from 175 BC until his death in 164 BC. So this is about less than 200 years, about 175 or 170 or so years before Yahawashi was born. This is when this event happened. Okay. And that's who this Antiochus Epiphanes was, the one who caused our people to become Gentiles and Greeks. He was the one that forced that upon our people. That's the reason why when you get into the New Testament, it's talking about the Greeks, the Gentiles. Those were our people that were descendants of those that were forced into being Hellenized. Okay, so we go ahead and read this paragraph, and it says here that he was a son of the king Antiochus III the Great, which we just read in Maccabees. It said he was the son of Antiochus. It says here, originally named Mithridates. Okay, he assumed the name Antiochus after he ascended the throne. Notable events during Antiochus's reign include his near conquest of Ptolemy, Egypt. So he was fighting against one of the other factions that ruled during the Greek Empire. Okay. In fact, let me see if we can pull up a map. This is the Seleucid Empire. And I'm going to see if there's a way for us to go into the division of the Macedonian Empire. Okay, so this is the Empire of Macedonia, okay, which is the Empire of, you see this is Macedonia. This is where Alexander came out of. And by the way, he is an Edomite. He was of the line of Agag. He was an Amalekite, just like the rest of the Macedonians that lived in that area at that time were descendants of Amalek. And this is actually chronicled even in old sources that was written concerning Alexander the Great and those that ruled that empire. Okay, that's why the evils multiplied on the earth very wickedly when they came into power. As we know, the spirit of Amalek is the most off spirit of all the nations on the earth, even more off than the rest of his Edomite brethren. Okay, so we're gonna go. Let me see if I could see there should be a map with the different 4 parts of the empire that was split, but sometimes they don't show this on here. Okay, so let's go back to the Seleucid Empire. So the Seleucid Empire was basically what we were under during the time of the Greeks. Okay, and the Seleucid Empire will show you how it looks or the size of it. As you see here, this is the land of Israel. Okay, this is the Ptolemaic kingdom, and a lot of our people fled Israel and went into Egypt because the Ptolemy dynasty was a little bit more friendly towards our people. And on top of that, they wanted to have more people in the event they would be going to war against the Seleucid Empire. So they allowed our people to migrate there in large numbers and settle in Alexandria, okay? Which actually this area is known as the land of Goshen. This is actually the area that the children of Israel dwelt in during the time of the Egyptian captivity. And a lot of them settled in Alexandria, Egypt, and that's where you have the term known as the Alexandrian Jews that was around in the ancient world. Okay, so the Seleucid Empire was here, going towards Persia, and then it stopped in Syria, going towards modern day Lebanon, and then of course the land of Israel. And during that time, our people were, after the Maccabean revolt, we became independent. Okay, so I'm just trying to give y'all a little map on that. So let's go ahead and go back and let's see what happened during the time of Antiochus the Fourth. Okay, so now you're going to peep this, verse 11. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. So you had wicked men, wicked Israelite men that went to do as the heathen do. Okay? So it says here, so this device pleased them well. It says, then certain people were forward therein that they went to the king, which gave them license to do after the ordinance of the heathen, whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen, and made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant and joined themselves to the heathen, were sold to do mischief. So this is where the beginning of the uncircumcision in the New Testament comes from. Okay, because we have to tie this feast of dedication for you brothers and sisters to the New Testament, so that way now you know why they took out the Apocrypha. Okay, do you have anything to say, Azariah? Do you want to interject and add something onto this?
Just a little bit, I mean, you said it spot on. It's just you begin to see exactly where it is that we get ready to break off, right? This is why the Apocrypha is so important. This is why it shows why too as well, that they didn't want this to be a part of the Bible. Put a lot of their plans, their doctrine would be totally trash even from the get-go, right? If someone would actually read and to look into those Bibles, it just totally throws their doctrine off. So, and also on the point too, where it shows that, our people, wicked men out of Israel, right? This is why it's good to know, because we always had an evil sect of our people that from the inside in, it was always things that are always done internally. You look at the Black Panthers, you look at everything, it's always done internally, it's always internal fight. And then they go ahead and, rat out, our people to put us in a bad situation against the enemies. So,
Yeah, Con. Yeah, man. It's always like a way for our people to fall from within. When you have, people that are off, you could just, and all these things that happen, they always it always happens over and over again, the same type of thing, with our people, especially with the multiple captivities that we've been through. You can see it, played out over and over again. And this time right here, we're seeing, what has happened. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the, into what he did in the temple. So it says here, we'll go to verse 20. And after that, Antiochus had smitten Egypt, he returned again in the 143rd year and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude. Okay. So remember, this is the 143rd year of the Greek reign. Remember, initially, I think it was the 137th year. Yeah, so 137 in verse 10. The third year was 6 years later. So the 143rd year was 6 years later when he returned to Jerusalem. Okay. So he says he returned again in the 143rd year and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude. So he brought up a big army to come up against our people that were in the land, and entered proudly into the sanctuary and took away the golden altar and the candlestick of light and all the vessels thereof, and the table of the showbread and the pouring vessels and the vials and the censers of gold and the veil and the crown and the golden ornaments that were before the temple, all which he pulled off. He took also the silver and the gold and the precious vessels. Also he took the hidden treasures which he found. And when he had taken all away, he went into his own land, having made a great massacre and spoken very proudly. So he massacred a lot of our people as they were stealing these things out of the temple. Okay, and he was talking a lot of mess. Okay. It says, therefore, there was a great mourning in Israel and in every place where they were. Now, mind you, this was unprovoked. Okay. This is unprovoked. For those of y'all that want to say that, those people out there that want to say that trust that you should be cool with your enemy of the other nations. I mean, this is unprovoked. 6 years later, after he came into power, he did this. Okay. So now what we're gonna do. Oh, let me get some of this, because I know sometimes some brothers may not know about this. Let's go ahead and go down here. I'm gonna move down to we'll go to verse 28. The land also was moved for the inhabitants thereof, and all the house of Jacob was covered with confusion. And after 2 years fully expired, the king sent his chief collector of tribute into the cities of Judah, who came unto Jerusalem with a great multitude and spake peaceable words unto him, but all was deceit. So you see, the chief collector, the tax collector, okay, that was coming to take the tax tribute from our people to send them to Antiochus, he came and spake peaceable words with them, but it was all in deceit. See, all these jakes out here, they want to have a politician tell them lies, okay, and they want to feel good, but they don't understand that that's all deceit. Okay, see, a lot of this stuff was happening by surprise and through deceit. Okay, you had anything to say, Azariah?
Yeah, it's a couple precepts. Starting off with Exodus 32 and 20 was it 32 and 23 and 32. Thou shalt make no covenant with them nor with their gods. That's what we screwed up right there the first time.
What was the precept again? Just want to make sure the brothers heard it again.
Oh yeah, Slakia, Exodus 23 and 32.
There it is.
Yep. Thou shalt make no covenant with them nor with their gods. And that's the thing. Most High told us don't get involved with these heathens, right? Never, Sirach 12, never trust and 10, never trust thine enemy, right? That's one of the things that it started even from back then. And you see what happens. And that just shows you that the wicked of our people already, they turn their back on the Most High from the get-go.
That's right.
they was already down to go on the other. They was already a op. They said, "Hey, look, we suffering right now." They saying sound just like the sect of our ancestors that was complaining, that was murmuring against Moses. You know what I'm saying? Talking mess about him behind his back in the tents and everything, right? we did good in Egypt. We was good. They gave us onions, garlic. You know, we was living good. Same people, man. And then, because then when you trust your enemy, right, and you lean on to them, the deceit that's done. This is what they do right here. This is Psalms. The next precept I got, Psalms 51.
Okay.
And 20.
I think I know where you want to go.
55. Yeah.
Chapter.
Yeah, it's like your wrong chapter. It's 55 and 21. Yep. That's it. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. So you know how they go. It's the same situation. It's always done like that, you know. It's always done like that. They always try to tell us it's something else to come up with smooth words, come up to do something, but it's always deceit. There's always lying involved. And this is why you can't trust your enemy, because they're always going to try to look to gain the upper hand against you. These are war tactics.
Yep. Yeah. Beautiful precepts, man. To make no covenant with them. You saw, like you brought up, like in First Maccabees, it tells you that there was wicked men out of Israel that made a covenant with the heathen, which is against the law. You're not to make a covenant of joining yourself unto them. Then the other one is this, words smooth as butter, but in their heart was war. So I mean, that's exactly what a lot of our people, have a hard time understanding. Because we want people to have good intention with us, but it's like you got people that will oppress you, then massacre you. You know what I'm saying? Like, we just read just a few verses prior about massacring, and you know what I'm saying,
bro.
they done took the all the stuff out the temple, which that's a great offense to our people, to have all those things that is used for the sanctuary to be taken. I mean, you can't even do that to them. If you did that to the Arabs out there in the Saudi Arabia, and you went and rolled up and took the cobblestone, they would declare perpetual war against you until who they believe their God comes. Perpetual war if anybody pulled up and took the cobblestone that they worship.
Straight up on site. It's not even.
Our people will sit there and be trusting the enemy after they did what they did to us. Because you always want them, you're seek after. It says, "Why trimmest thou thy ways to seek love?" Tells you that in the scriptures. So, that docileness among some of our people became, a major stumbling block. Okay, and that's the reason why the Most High had to raise up real men that was not going to trust the heathen, to put down the heathen. Because if we had it the way that some of our people in our nation would want it, they'd want us to sit down at the table and make a discussion with the elites of Edom about how we can transition, and they can transition the kingdom over to us.
God. It's sickening, man. It's madness.
Yeah.
How many times do you have to see the same lesson in history over and over again to be repeated, to know it's going to be the same result?
Yeah, that's what happened to what's his name, from the Haitian ruler, after the Haitian Revolution. He went and had a meeting with the French. And they took him and imprisoned him, and he died. He died in prison. He came to, in good, quote unquote, good faith, and having a discussion with them, and they took him. You get stuff like that happening with our people, in various times throughout history. You see it so many times. So, yep.
And we're not even finished with the offenses yet. We still got
Yeah,
read.
we're not even finished. We're gonna get there soon.
Come on.
We're gonna get there definitely soon. And yeah, because I want to show brothers like kind of like what was transpiring before that, you know, because so you can kind of get a good idea of like what was going on. And you know, certain things, some times if you haven't read this in a while, you might forget of some of these precepts. You're like, whoa, I forgot about that. So now we'll go back to verse 30 again. And spake peaceable words unto them, but all was deceit. For when they had given him credence, he fell suddenly upon the city and smote it very sore and destroyed much people of Israel. And when he had taken the spoils of the city, he set it on fire and pulled down the houses and walls thereof on every side. But the woman and children took they captive and possessed the cattle. So you see that? For you, some of you sisters, okay, that may not understand why, you know, look what they did. They killed many of the people. Of course, you know that a lot of the men were targeted and killed. And what did they do? They took the woman and the children captive as slaves, the ones that they were able to get. So this is atrocity upon atrocity. Okay. And this is after, it says, a great mourning came over Israel after the first massacre and the temple was raided. This is coming back 6 years later to do some more. You know? And burn the houses. So you guess what? The people that were remaining, a lot of them were homeless. A lot of them were outside. And I ain't talking about going to the club and being seen. They was outside with no covering, no house. Okay, they were spoiled, meaning their possessions were taken from them. They said, and they possessed the cattle. They took the cattle. So now how are you going to eat? Okay, they burned the city. You know what that means? Also, probably they burned the land, the crops. Okay. That's to completely break you down economically and socially. Okay. And see, this is what people don't understand about the scattering of Israel. Some of these children that were taken captive, younger boys, if they weren't killed after being taken captive and they were able to be old enough to have children, they would have been in these other lands where they were taken captive even during this time. Okay. So let's see if we can. Okay, we can keep going down because there's another. We're going to go to Second Maccabees to get more detail, and we can get into directly into some of the things. So going on, we'll go to verse 33. Then builded they the city of David with a great and strong wall and with mighty towers, and made it stronghold for them. And they put therein a sinful nation, wicked men, and fortified themselves therein. They stored it also with armor and victuals. And when they had gathered together the spoils of Jerusalem, they laid them up there. And so they became a sore snare, for it was a place to lie in wait against the sanctuary and an evil adversary to Israel. So what they did is they built a military command post in Bethlehem, in Jerusalem. So in Jerusalem, they built like a big, strong wall and tower, okay, with a military force where they had foods and supplies, so they could always be there to just basically, kill our people. That's why it says, for it was a place to lie in wait against the sanctuary and an evil adversary to Israel. And thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary and defiled it. So when the people were going up to the sanctuary, as they were going to the sanctuary, the Israelites, they would then be killing them every time they would be coming. So when people come up to do prayers or to do any fasting or whatever, or to try and see if they can give sacrifice, these Edomites would come out and kill them. Oh yeah, we have to paint the picture. We really do. You got anything to say, Ak?
Nah, man. Just like we said, you know, the offense is this is just the beginning. You would think, right? A nation like for the people that I know I ain't have much to say, but like you know, it's just one of those things, right? You chop it up and you would think that for a nation, people that want to save another nation, the
Mm-hmm.
offenses that have done are so highly great. Like you can just read this chapter alone, and we're not even done.
We're in
Right?
chapter 1, Ak.
Chapter one. We're not even finished. We're chapter one.
We're in chapter 1, bro.
Chapter one. Right. So I just for our people that may have any slimmer of doubt or that are full blown on that, you can read this and truly say that this is a people of worth of salvation or have or an inch of repentance. The Most High has put an inch of repentance in their heart towards our people. You I don't know what else to say to you. I'm gonna just leave it at that. You know, I don't know what else to say to you this late in the game.
Yeah, God, man, bruh. This is, and we're not going to be able to go into like every single thing because we recommend you brothers and sisters y'all read the book of Maccabees.
God.
You read it and get an understanding of what some of the events happen because we can't really go over every event. In fact, we do have the Day of Nicanor come as well that's going to be coming up, which also takes place inside the Maccabees as well. Okay, so we'll keep going down so we can kind of continue to get the understanding of what happened. Insomuch that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them, whereupon the city was made an habitation of strangers. So what happened? A lot of the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them. So because of these killings, this let's put it like this. This is basically this what they did by setting up this area where they had a tower where that was fortified that they can stay and chill in, and they had all their armor, all their weapons, and all their food. This was basically a lynching. It's basically the Ku Klux Klan. Okay, this is one of the origins of groups like the Ku Klux Klan. Okay, yet another group known as I think it was like the Red Shirts, I believe. That was also a vigilante group after the Civil War during Reconstruction that would go around lynching, massacring, and killing so-called black people. This is basically what they were doing. Okay, they were basically lynching our people for sport. So we have to understand what these people were doing during this time. Okay. So as you see in verse 38, insomuch that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them. So a lot of our people fled. The terror was so much that the inhabitants, the people that lived in Jerusalem, left the city. A lot of them settled in Alexandria, Egypt, because the Ptolemaic dynasty was a little bit more friendly towards the Jews, in part because of their rivalry with the Seleucid Empire, which they were warring with. Okay, now the Ptolemaic dynasty were Edomites that were descendants of the friends that Alexander the Great parted four parts of his empire towards. But they knew that for their benefit, it would benefit them to have the population of the Jews on their side. So a lot of our people fled to Alexandria. This is one of the reasons why Joseph and Mary, with the infant Yahawashi, were able to flee to Egypt and hide, right, from Herod, because there were so many of our people that were there already at that time. Okay. And if you want to know more about the Alexandrian Jews, if y'all brothers have a Josephus, the Josephus goes into the Alexandrian Jews as well. Okay. You can also Google Alexandrian Jews and you can pull up articles. Wikipedia goes into it. It'll tell you the history of how the Alexandrian Jews came to be. Okay, we even have Apollos, who is one of the disciples in the book of Acts. He was actually what would be considered an Alexandria Jew, a Jew that's from Alexandria, Egypt. So now continuing on, so it says, whereupon the city was made an habitation of strangers. So other nations began to inhabit Jerusalem because so many of our people fled and become strange to those that were born in her, and her own children left her. Okay, so a lot of our people fled, and then heathen began to try and encroach and move in. Okay, and the among those heathen would have been the Edomites that were just south of the land. They would come in there and start trying to live in there as well until they were eventually kicked out by the Maccabees. So it says her sanctuary was laid waste like a wilderness. Her feasts were turned into mourning, her Sabbaths into reproach, for honor into contempt. Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but as you go on, it's going to show you how Antiochus made a decree that the Israelites should leave their customs, their laws, and should follow the religion of the Greeks, and should not circumcise their children, and shall eat abominable foods, unclean foods, and to basically worship, idols. One of the idols was, I believe, Jupiter, that they set up an idol's temple in Jerusalem to worship Jupiter. Okay. So now we're going to see if we can find, what we'll do. In fact, we'll go into, I want to get the actual part where the temple eventually was rededicated. So we can actually just go to the 4th chapter. You have anything to say, Art?
No, that's spot on. You also got the rebel part too. Within there, I guess brothers and sisters could read that too within chapter 2 and 3, of course. Then there, you know how he Mattathias.
Yeah.
Right, he stood strong. If you don't mind, I'll just get that one precept real quick.
Yeah. What you said, chapter 2?
Yeah. Chapter 2 and verse 19. We can go with, we can actually go for 18 for context sake.
Con.
Now therefore come thou first and fulfill the king's commandment, like as all the heathen have done, yea, and the men of Judah also, and such as remain at Jerusalem. So shalt thou and thy house be in the number of the king's friends, and thou and thy children shall be honored with silver and gold and many rewards. So they're offering them. Basically, kind of a little deal, a little pack. You know what I'm saying? Little package right here. Look, if you same thing, Satan came and tempted Yahawashi with. Basically, he tempted it with more, but say you give a little treat. The heathens try to give us crumbs, right? Because anyone who's at the throne of power, they always have the people, the peasants, or anyone. They'll throw them little crumbs, to make them feel like they're important. Same thing that's going on today, no different, right?
Yep.
Verse 19. Then Mattathias answered and spake with a loud voice, though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him, and fall away every one from the religion of their fathers, and give consent to his commandments, yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers. God, Yahweh forbid that we forsake the law and the ordinances. We will not hearken to the king's words to go from our religion, either on the right hand or the left. So and you always get examples of the righteous men that, just that are the Most High has put it in them to stand tall against. You brought out in the chapters of Daniel. You had Daniel, of course. You had the top three. You had the three. Meshach, I'm missing one. Meshach, Abednego, and I can't miss the other one.
Meshach, Rashach, and Abednego.
Meshach, Rashach, and
Yeah,
Abednego.
yeah, they were given Babylonian names. That's why it's hard for us to remember because they were given those names versus what their actual Hebrew names were.
They're using, and the same thing happened here too, right? The same thing happened here too. That you had it here. They was given surnames.
Yeah. They were given different names. Babylon, the Babylonian captivity has a lot of parallels with our captivity here, and also, and then this right here, there's a lot of similarities with the Greek Empire as well, with certain things that they did with what Esau did. Just like in the tells you how they open the book of the law and they made likeness of their images to be their own. Well, they did that when the Renaissance came, when our people fell in the Middle Ages, at the end of the Middle Ages, and they took over at the Renaissance period. They did the same things. A lot of the stuff that happened here happened also during the time of the Renaissance period, the beginning part when our people were taken down. They would defile the different places of worship. They would bring the abominable foods in. They would make people venerate different idols, and they change up the images, the icons. It's like they did, which we showed y'all I showed y'all the Russian icons for the lesson, and I know y'all probably seen different videos of different guys in Israel showing all those ancient images of how our people were depicted. And all these things keep happening over and over again. But man, this right here is a beautiful part to show about how you saw Mattathias did not consent, neither did his sons consent. They consented to what? The covenant of their fathers in verse 20. Okay, that's what they wanted to stick with. The covenant, meaning the agreement. See, when you make a covenant with the heathen, you've thrown away the covenant with the Most High. Okay, because your agreement is with the Most High. That's your covenant. Okay, that's why we have something called the Old Covenant. The Old Covenant was an agreement that the Most High made with us. So if we go away from that covenant, then bam, now we fall into these other situations. But if we stick with the covenant, we stick with what the Most High wanted us, and we're talking about at the time, this is before Yahawashi, of course, then the Most High would be gracious towards us, and help us out, which is essentially what happened with Mattathias and his sons. Okay, so Mattathias is the patriarch of the Maccabees. Okay, and he had different sons. One of the most notable son is Judas Maccabees. Okay, so y'all definitely want to read that. Also, the brother Yahawashi brought out the precept right here. This is the 1 Kings chapter 17 and verse 35, with whom the Lord had made a covenant and charged them, saying, ye shall not fear other gods, nor bow yourselves to them, nor serve them, nor sacrifice to them. Okay, now why are we saying that? Because that was what eventually would happen in the temple when these Edomites would come in. Okay, so in fact, we'll get that real quick, so that way you can see it. So we're going to go to 2 Maccabees. Now, by the way, for you brothers and sisters that are watching, 1st and 2nd Maccabees are actually the same events. They're just basically have different details that are added in on both sides. So sometimes when you go, so if you're reading 1st Maccabees and then you read 2nd Maccabees, and you're like, wait, this happened as well. It's not, it's the same story. Okay, but there's different aspects within each one that goes into more detail, or they add, or there's other things that were not in the first one that are in there as well. So let's see, we got here. So we're going to go to, so we're in 2nd Maccabees, chapter 6. So we'll just start at verse 1. Not long after this, the king sent an old man of Athens to compel the Jews to depart from the laws of their fathers and to live after the laws of God. That's actually in 1st Maccabees. one as well. Okay, so when Antiochus made the decree that we should depart from the law of our fathers, they also sent old men from Athens, Greece, to compel our people to depart from the laws of our fathers. Okay, so verse 2, to pollute also the temple in Jerusalem and to call it the temple of Jupiter Olympus, and that in garrison of Jupiter, the defender of strangers, as they did desire that dwelt in the place. Okay, so let's actually do that. Let's look at this real quick. Okay, now, by the way, this is one of the notable things that Antiochus Epiphanes. Now, this is secular history. This is why a lot of these Edomites do not want us to go into this apocrypha, because this destroys their beloved Greco-Roman empire that they try and push in front of the world and try and make us like during the time of when we're in school. Because when we're in school, and I remember vividly being in school and being taught about the Greco-Roman Empire and how this is the beginning point of Western civilization, and how great Alexander was, and how great the Romans are, and how great Caesar was. And they made us watch all these documentaries and these movies that made these people so mythically great. And they said, you got to be like these people. These are the ones that actually are the great men of the world. But they little did they wanted what they never wanted to tell us is this right here that I'm going to highlight. What was Antiochus Epiphanes known for? His persecution of the Jews in Judea and Samaria and the rebellion of the Jewish Maccabees. Yeah, that's what they didn't want you to know. They didn't want you to know that. See, if you was in school, if you was in high school and you was in your world history class, because when we're in, I don't know about you, Azariah, but we are one of the history classes that we took in high school, I believe that was like either 10th grade or 11th grade, was world history. So that whole year we were studying world history. Did y'all do that?
Had world history classes. We did, but they this is not. They didn't go into the peaks of this. They did not go into any depths of this type of levels. You know, they might have made a mention like something like Alexander the Great and things, but they did not, by any means, they didn't go into any depth. You know, not even talking about this, but they just didn't give you any depth of it. So it was limited amount.
Yeah, yeah, they would completely avoid this because I remember world history class, and I would remember if this was brought up about in fact, Antiochus Epiphanes wasn't even brought up. The only person that was brought up was Alexander the Great, about how him and his armies took over the whole known world and defeated the Persians. That's what we learned, and that was it. That's like a chapter in the book, and they, some pictures and stuff like that, and then they just something. Then in world history, they just jump straight to Rome. They just jump straight to the Roman Republic and the Roman Empire with Julius Caesar and Brutus, and all that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't even let you know what happened. That just shows you these schools out here, they're meant to keep our people blind. Because think about it, if our people were taught the full history of the Greek Empire and the persecution of the Jews in Judea and how they forced them to be Hellenized and worship idols, you know that they couldn't even hold this. That stuff wouldn't even be able to hold in the churches of them saying that the Gentiles are other nations in the New Testament.
Nope.
So this is all part of the intricate plan to keep our people deceived. You have to have it on all levels. You know what I mean? The school system has to keep the information from us. The church has to keep the system away from us. Because if you learned that in the school system when you went to church, you can be like, hold on. These uncircumcised. Well, there was Jews that were uncircumcised.
Come on.
So they can't have the history and then be a Christian. Can't work like that.
Impossible.
It can't work like that. So they have to be in line with each other. That's why there's a guy, his name is I forgot the guy's name, but his name escapes me right now. But he's known, he created what was known as the racial compensatory code, where he talks about how when you examine the whole world, you examine who controls what. There's 9 areas of activity that are controlled by the Edomites, the elites. And one of those areas is religion, politics, sex, which means relations between man and woman or whoever, meaning they control the narrative behind all that. Education. So if they could, if one of the 9 areas they control, if 2 of the 9 areas they control is education and religion, they have to basically have the same effect of them being able to maintain their supremacy. Okay, by basically keeping information out, and hence the reason why they removed the Apocrypha as well. Now I'm gonna go into this Jupiter guy, right? Okay, so let's show you who that they were trying to make us worship. Okay, now they set up the temple of they made the temple in Jerusalem, the temple of Jupiter. This guy right here. Okay, now in the Roman Empire he was known as Zeus. During the Greek Empire he was known as Jupiter. Okay. Okay, his nickname, so Jupiter, Day or Sky Father, the god of the sky and thunder, the king of the gods. So basically, it's basically like a false most high. Don't worship Yahweh, worship this guy who's the king, who is the king of all the gods. Okay? Now, mind you, this god abodes in heaven. The planet Jupiter was named after him. Okay? So now we're going to go into this real quick. It says Jupiter was the chief deity of the Roman state religion throughout the Republican and imperial eras until Christianity became the dominant religion of the empire. In Roman mythology, he negotiated with Numa Pompilius, the second king of Rome, to establish principles of Roman religion such as offering or sacrifice. That's the reason why they had these abominable sacrifices in the temple, which we'll get into. So let's go ahead and go on. I'm going to reread verse 2 just for the sake of context. This is, and to pollute also the temple of Jerusalem and to call it the temple of Jupiter Olympus, and that garrison of Jupiter, the defender of strangers, as they did desire that dwelt in the place. The coming in of this mischief was sore and grievous to the people, for the temple was filled with riot and reveling by the Gentiles, who dallied with harlots and had to do with women within the circuit of the holy places, and besides that, brought in things that were not lawful. The altar was also filled with profane things which the law forbiddeth. Okay, so this is where they were putting unclean foods and sacrificing them in the temple. They were also bringing harlots into the temple and dealing with them and throwing parties and getting drunk inside the temple.
What? Yo. And so for anybody, just real quick, for anybody who's saying you can join yourself to harlots, just think there's another example for you.
Uh-oh. I'm fired.
Just saying, just think about that.
Man.
This is totally unholy acts, man. Just in a direct spit to the face.
Come on, man. It's crazy, bro. It's crazy. Man.
Yeah.
Now it says here, verse 6, neither was it lawful for a man to keep the Sabbath days or ancient fast, which is basically the feast, the ancient feast, or to profess himself at all to be a Jew.
A what?
To profess himself at all to be a Jew.
Come on, man.
So basically they said, call yourself a Greek.
Yep.
Y'all are Greeks, just like they say y'all are Americans. See, if when Kanye West says that he's a proud American or he's American, he wants to run for president, they're cool with that. He calls himself a Jew, all hell break loose.
Con.
Okay, that which is that been is that which shall be done. There's no new thing under the sun. See, that's why they want you to call yourself an American. Call yourself a Jew is a problem. See, a lot of stuff that they're doing, they did it before, you know? Because they want to, it tells you that they want to remove the remembrance, you know, out from among the people. In fact, let me get that real quick. Okay. Because a lot of our people don't understand that what they done was happening, but you know, the Most High actually allowed it to happen, because that's why we have to what's called bethink ourselves. So after a while, these curses will come upon us so badly we'll forget who we were. You know? As crazy as it sounded, right? But it was going to happen. But this is one of the things. How that happens is when you get persecuted so much that your safety and your family's safety is to a point where where you have to be basically deny that you are a Jew for the sake, you know what I mean? Out of fear of being killed and you and your family being killed, right? Or persecuted. You just deny that you are one.
Oh, hey, look, there's a DJ Academics, you know, people who know DJ Academics, you know, basically just rolls himself up to this big, you know, media, you know, online media, you know, star at this point. I'll give him that. He was afraid to go on there and say, he was afraid on his live to say shalom. He was like, shalom, what is that? Oh, no, you know, you ain't gonna get me caught up. That dude was shook to say shalom. Yes.
Yeah, I remember I saw that. I was crazy. Yeah, I saw that. He was like, yo, you ain't gonna get me caught up. He saw what happened. This boy got canceled. He ain't trying to get canceled himself, you know, because he got a Spotify deal.
Yeah, okay.
I know that was big money because he had a lot of leverage because he could just stay straight on YouTube. He got like over 2 million subscribers, like on his main YouTube page, and like another million probably on his backup page.
God.
You know what I'm saying? So he's sitting on bread, like a lot of bread. So I already know that Spotify deal for him to do is off the record. Is a Spotify channel. And I know they had to give him some mills per year for that one, or at least some money up front plus whatever streaming rights he would have to the streams. You know, he's gonna try and work his way up to Joe Rogan. Well, no one's gonna top Joe Rogan. You got to get an audience outside of the hip hop community that's bigger than the hip hop community to get Joe Rogan status.
Right.
You know,
but he living comfortable.
Oh, Harry. Oh, he talking a lot of trash to Little Baby. He want that smoke. He already challenged Little Baby to a fight. He want to fight Little Baby for real.
See, and that's the thing, right? Same tendencies of our people. We quick to fight each other. He quick to take some smoke with Little Baby. But when it comes to them people who took the identity of your same people, you don't want no smoke. You can't even say shalom. Get out of here.
Yep. You got to smoke for Little Baby who got goons. And he's a whole, you know, non-street dude. You know what I mean?
Oh man.
But you can't even say shalom back, nothing. You scared. You're like, oh, don't even say that on my platform. I don't want to get got like that. Man, I don't want to get them anti-Semitic charges. But see, the thing about it is these fake Jews, they're the ones that don't have the issue that we have in verse 6 of 2 Maccabees, chapter 6.
Oh, there we go.
We're the ones that can't call ourselves a Jew.
Right.
See, this Bible just shows you every time that it's not pertaining to them.
Come on, man.
Okay?
Yep.
Because they're the promoters of a lot of these heathen customs and these idols.
Come on now. They should be kicked out of the temple by that state, just off of that alone.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna go into yeah, we could probably go into let's go. Let me see if there's anything left on this. Let me see. See if there's any. Okay, so very interesting. So they say that so they said that Zeus is the Greek equivalent. Now I'm thinking that because of probably the time in which the Book of Maccabees might have been written, that they just basically said Jupiter since they knew it was the same god as Zeus. But Romans called the god Jupiter, and it was called Zeus by the Greeks, which everybody knows Zeus is a Greek god, so that makes sense. Plus, the word Jupiter is a Latin word anyway, so that would make it Roman by that. So that's just a little caveat for y'all to understand and know that Zeus and Jupiter are the same god. They're just one is a different name under Greek, and under the Romans, it was a different name. Now look at the equivalent, right? The equivalent to Zeus is Baal or and Allah. See, a lot of people don't know that Allah was a god, an idol, back in the ancient world before there was even Islam.
Come on.
See, this L right here is actually Allah. How you would say L in the Hebrew, okay, is Allah. You see, if this is the Hebrew, Phoenician and Hebrew, that's the same language, okay? It's just the Phoenician characters are different. This is the Assyrian script, okay, which is how Hebrew is written. That's when you read your blue letter, you're going to see this script right here versus the Paleo Hebrew. This one right here is a ah. You see that looks like an A just on its side, and this looks like an L, right?
Come on, man.
That's where the alphabet comes from. This is an A and an L. You would say Allah right here. And no, we're not venerating the God, right? We're just saying it, okay? In the Bible, they quoted the names of the gods. They just didn't make no sacrifices or call upon them for anything, okay? And it simply means God. That's all it means. See, when you say Yasharallah, the word Allah at the end of Yasharallah is God. He, Yah, Shar, Prince, Allah, God, Yashar Allah. So Allah was a god that was worshipped way back then. So this particular deity, Jupiter, is equivalent to Allah and Baal. And Baal was one of the gods that we were worshiping and falling into madness over. Okay, if you read the Book of Kings and you go to the time of Ahab and what's her name, Jezebel, that was the god that they were promoting to be worshipped by the people. Okay, and that's the equivalent of Jupiter. Okay. Very, very heavy stuff. You got anything to say, Ot?
Nah, man. Not even.
Okay, and by the way, one of the symbols that's also next, the sacred animal of Jupiter, just so you know that these Greeks were Edomites, says here, Jupiter is usually thought to have originated as a sky god. His identifying implement is the thunderbolt, and his primary sacred animal is the eagle. Okay?
Uh-oh.
So now when you go here, you see, look at the eagle right here. Okay, which is the spirit animal of Esau. Okay, that's the reason why not only did the Greeks promote it, but the Romans promoted the eagle. That was their symbol. In fact, we'll read further down, and this is just a sidebar history lesson, so y'all brothers have understanding of this, and you can do further look into it later. But it's important for you to understand this symbolism, because the symbolism is found in the various parts of the scriptures concerning Esau. Okay. So it says here, which held precedence over other birds in the taking of auspices and became one of the most common symbols of the Roman army. See Aquila. The two emblems were often combined to represent the god in the form of an eagle holding its claws, a thunderbolt, frequently seen on Greek and Roman coins. Just so you know that the Greeks and Romans that ruled were Edomites. I think you don't need to have anything further to say on that. Okay, just more proof. You had anything to say, Ott?
Hey, now this is just a straight cut. A straight cut. Like at this point, we know who God know who Esau is, man.
Con. And by the way, a lot of Edomite supremacist hate groups, they also push the thunderbolt as well. Okay. They have. That's why you go into a lot of them. Those, if you look at a lot of symbols of the white supremacist groups, they have like the SS stormtroopers or the Nazis. They had the thunderbolts.
Con.
Okay.
Come on, man.
Okay. So just so you know,
got them Thor. You got even in your marbles, got Thor in there.
Correct. Because Thor is actually like basically Jupiter. You know, some of those different characters are actually represented by ancient Greco-Roman idols. When you look up like some of the different ones, you'll see like different idols that are tied to some of those characters.
Come on.
Okay. Yep.
And let me I'll get one precept real quick too.
Yeah, go ahead.
Lamentations 4:19. Our persecutors are swifter than the eagles of the heaven. They pursued us upon the mountains. They laid wait for us in the wilderness.
Come on.
Show
your Lamentations what?
Lamentations 4:19.
Okay. Now, how do we know that who it is? You read verse 21 and 22.
Rejoice, be O glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwellest in the land of Uz. The cup also shall pass through unto thee. Thou shalt be drunken, and shalt make thyself naked. The punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished. O daughter of Zion, he will no more carry thee away into captivity. He will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom. He will discover thy sins.
Yep, and that's what's happening. You know, that's he discovers their sins and they're being revealed. You know, and feast of dedication is one of those things that they did. Okay, and one of their iniquities. Okay, and this right here is the end time prophecy of the freedom of the captivity, because this proves in verse 22 of Lamentations chapter 4, this proves that the final captivity is under Edom. Because after Edom is taken down, the daughter of Edom, which is Babylon the Great, also known as Babylon, the Edom's empire, Israel will no longer be carried into captivity. So anybody who says that the Edomites were done away with, if the Edomites were done away with 2,000 years ago, like some of the people are saying, then that means Israelites cannot be in captivity anymore, because the Most High already discovered their secrets, their sins, right? And he already put them down.
God,
So that makes no sense. If the Edomites were done away with, like Vocab Malone says, then that would mean that Israel cannot go into captivity if they have fallen down. If there were no more people, Israel cannot be in captivity.
God. And yet, what are we in?
We are in captivity yet this day. Like it says in Baruch, we're yet this day in our captivity, right, where the Lord had scattered us.
Come on, man.
All right. So this is getting a little bit heavier than I thought it would be, but this is actually pretty good so far. So we're going to get down to the nitty gritty. I'm going to go ahead and go to First Maccabees 4. Okay, so let's see if we could just kind of get closer to it. So basically, the rundown in First Maccabees 4, Georgius, who was the one sent to take down our people, the Jews, with Judas. So Judas at this point is ruling, is basically leading the people, the ones that are righteous, against the Greek army. Okay, so we'll see if we could just. In fact, we'll just read the whole. We'll just kind of, because the chapter is pretty long, so I want to kind of skip to a good part. So let's see if we can go. Yeah, we'll start right here. So they were in First Maccabees chapter 4 and verse 35. Now, when Lysias saw his army put to flight and the manliness of Judas' soldiers, how they were ready either to live or die valiantly, he went into Antiochia and gathered together a company of strangers, and having made his army greater than it was, he proposed to come again into Judea. So what happened, they came up against Jerusalem, and the Most High had them fall. So we're going to go back up for the sake of because this is very long right here, but it's a very, very good chapter. Okay, so let's see. We're going to just kind of zoom through it. We're not going to kind of give any I'm not going to try and give any particular interpretation. It's very straightforward. Okay, so let's go and start at verse 5. In the mean season came Georgius by night into the camp of Judas. And when he found no man there, he sought them in the mountains, for he said, these fellows flee from us. But as soon as it was day, Judas showed himself in the plain with 3,000 men, who nevertheless had neither armor nor swords to their mind. And they saw the camp of the heathen, that it was strong and well harnessed, encompassed round about with horsemen, and these were expert of war. So Judas was with 3,000 men, and they neither had armor nor sword upon them. Okay? And when he saw the army that Georgius had, he saw that it was well ordered, deep with horsemen, and these men were clearly experts of war. These were trained warmen, okay, men of war that they were coming up against. Verse 8, then said Judas to the men that were with him, fear ye not their multitude, neither be ye afraid of their assault. Remember how our fathers were delivered in the Red Sea, when Pharaoh pursued them with an army. Now therefore let us cry unto heaven, if peradventure the Lord will have mercy upon us, and remember the covenant of our fathers, and to destroy this host before our face this day, that so all the heathen may know that there is one who delivereth and saveth Israel. Then the strangers lifted up their eyes and saw them coming over against them. Wherefore they went out of the camp to battle, but they that were with Judas sounded their trumpets. So they joined battle, and the heathen, being discomfited, fled into the plain. So basically, their battle, they understood, was spiritual. When they came together, they didn't even grab their weapons at the time. When Judas was with those 3,000 men, they knew that the Most High would have to be the one that would have to deliver these people into their hand, because they were stronger than they were. So it says that he cried out. They made a prayer, and they said the Most High, they prayed that the Most High will remember his covenant that he had to our forefathers and would deliver us like he did in the land of Egypt. He showed that he's able to deliver. And that's essentially what happened. So now we go into verse 15. Howbeit all the hindmost of them were slain with the sword, for they pursued them unto Gereza and unto the plains of Idumea and Azotus and Gemnia, so that they were slain of them upon a 3,000 men. This done, Judas returned again with his host from pursuing them, and said to the people, be not greedy of spoil, inasmuch as there is a battle before us. And Georgius and his host are here by us in the mountain, but stand ye now against our enemies and overcome them, After this, ye may boldly take the spoils. So basically, when they were killed and they fled, he didn't want he didn't want the people to go and take the spoil yet until the battle was truly over. Okay? Because if you start celebrating before the victory, you're gonna look like old boy from the Houston Oilers that back in the 90s fumbled away the Super Bowl appearance of the Houston Oilers by celebrating before he got into the end zone. We don't want that.
God.
You know what I'm talking about. You probably seen the highlight, even though you're not from the era, but you seen them plays, them football plays where dudes is literally had the football and they celebrating before they get into the end zone and it gets knocked out.
Oh yeah, definitely.
What's his name did that?
Sean Jackson.
Sean Jackson.
Yep.
You don't want to pull us to Sean Jackson. That's what Judas is trying to prevent from happening.
God.
All right. So it says here, verse 19, as Judas was yet speaking these words, there appeared a part of them looking out of the mountain, who, when they perceived that the Jews had put their host to flight and were burning the tent, for the smoke had been seen and declared what was done, when therefore they perceived these things, they were sore afraid, and seeing also the host of Judas in the plain ready to fight, they fled every one into the land of strangers. Then Judas returned to the tents to spoil the tent, where they got much gold and silver, blue silk, and purple of the sea, and great riches. After this, they went home and sung a song of thanksgiving and praised the Lord in heaven, because it is good, because his mercy endureth forever. Thus Israel had a great deliverance that day. Now all the strangers that had escaped came and told Lysaeus what had happened, who, when he heard thereof, was confounded and discouraged, because neither such things as he were done unto Israel, nor such things as the kings commanded him were come to pass. So Lysaeus was mad because what was supposed to happen was supposed to be the slaughter and the defeat of the Jews, and it didn't happen when they got the report back. So let's keep going down. Verse 28. The next year, therefore, found Lysaeus gathered together 70,000 choice men of foot and 5,000 horsemen, that he might subdue them. So that's a lot.
Yeah.
70,000 is 6,000 men on footmen and then 5,000 horsemen. Okay. No, actually more than that. I'm tripping. Three score, by the way, is 20. Is 20. It means 20. So if you do 3 score, in fact, we could actually probably pull it up. Okay. So 3 score means 60. So 60,000. So each score is basically 20. When it's 3 times 20, it's 60. That's where you get the word 3 score. So he pulled up 60,000 men on foot and 5,000 horsemen. That's, I don't even understand how deep that is. Like, even in today's standards, that's deep. The population of the world was nowhere near what it was back then. So that's like equivalent to like having like probably like a 500,000 man army in today's, that's going to war, like going to a place to war. See, people are saying when you see these wars happening, like the U.S. invading, they're not actually having 60,000 men in the field of battle. They're sending out waves of like 1,000 to 10,000 at a time, and depending on the area that they're deploying at. So he raised up a big army. He basically took a full year to build up a massive army. So let's see what happened. Verse 29. So they came into Idumea and pitched their tents at Bashura, and Judas met them with 10,000 men. So they had 60,000 men on foot and 5,000 men on horses. And Judas only had 10,000 men with him. When he saw that mighty army, he prayed and said, Blessed art thou, O Savior of Israel, who didst quell the violence of the mighty man by the hand of thy servant David, and gavest the host of the strangers into the hands of Jonathan, the son of Saul, and his armor bearer. Shut up this army in the hand of thy people Israel, and let them be confounded in their power and horsemen. Make them to be of no courage, and cause the boldness of their strength to fall away, and let them quake at their destruction. Cast them down with the sword of them that love thee, and let all those that know thy name praise thee with thanksgiving. So they joined battle, and there were slain of the host of Lycaeus about 5,000 men. Even before them they were they slain. So you see how the prayer that Judas made, he tied it to what the Most High has done for our people in the past. And this is very important for you, brothers and sisters. When tribulation and the time comes, and the time of Jacob's trouble, call to mind to the Most High in prayer in the name of Yahawashi what he had done for our people in time past, and name those events of him doing those things. The Most High likes when you remind him of what he's done for our forefathers in time past by delivering them. That's why you've seen an example of him bringing up these things in time past. The Red Sea, us being delivered out of Egypt. And then later on in the same chapter, he talks about David and Jonathan. Did it for them, do it for us.
Khan.
You follow me, Akim? You got anything to say, Ak?
Nah, Khan, that's it. That's Sirach. So I back that up. Sirach 2 and 10. This is one of my favorite precepts, actually. Sirach 2 and 10. Look at the generations of old. I'll let you get there. Look at the generations of old and see, did ever any trust in Yahweh and was confounded? Or did any abide in his fear and was forsaken? Or whom did he ever despise that called upon him?
Man. Come on, bro.
Hey, man. That's the biggest part, man. This is a whole, that's like you said, that was a beautiful point, a Yapa point. Just, it was a spiritual aspect. They knew that they had to stay in there. Yahweh should I say too, time and place for everything. He said, take not script. And this is a preparation, a mindset that we're going to have for that time, just as the forefathers before us, man, when they was going into war, right? Hey, look, Yahweh said, take not, I'm roughly paraphrasing because I'm not there, but take no script, right? Basically, take nothing with you, man. The Most High is going to clothe you with what you need, the spiritual aspect, and physically too, because everything you seek is righteousness. He'll get you what you need, but he'll give you everything that's necessary. If you just have your faith in him, you put your trust in him. During those times, if they could do that, during those times, right, of wars, of going into war against being severely outnumbered. And yes, the number actually means the number that the Bible is stating. It's not like some exaggeration.
Yep.
The Most High was really giving the power to our people to overcome. And you have to think, why would he not? That just even magnifies his name even more. That glorifies him even more by dealing with the numbers, the beating the number game, right? Just shows you how truly powerful the Most High really is. And that's the mentality we have to make sure we keep, that no matter what happens, because even the elect gonna fight. They're gonna be outnumbered, but the quality versus quantity is what's being dealt.
Con. Yeah. And read verse 11 as well.
I thought about that, so that's even further confirmation for Yahweh is full of compassion and mercy, long suffering and very pitiful, and forgiveth sins and saveth in the time of affliction. Come on now.
Yep. So he saveth in the time of affliction. Yep. Man, and that's what we're talking about. We already showed the affliction, and we showed the Most High saves in the time of affliction. He shows that he's able to do that. So go ahead and go back, and let's get to verse 35. So this is where I showed before. So verse 35. Now when Lasai saw his army put to flight, and the manliness of the Judas soldiers, and how they were ready either to live or die valiantly, he went into Antiochus and gathered together a company of strangers, and having made his army greater than it was before. So he made it greater than the 65,000 he already had. Now he lost 5,000 though. He proposed to come again into Judea. Then said Judas and his brethren, behold, our enemies are discomfited. Let us go up to cleanse and dedicate the sanctuary. Upon this, all the hosts assembled themselves together and went up unto Mount Zion. And when they saw the sanctuary desolate, and the altar profaned, and the gates burned up, and the shrubs growing on the courts as a forest, or in the one of the mountains, yea, and the priest's chambers pulled down, they rent their clothes and made great lamentation, and cast ashes upon their heads, and fell down flat to the ground upon their faces, and blew an alarm with the trumpets, and cried toward heaven. Then Judas appointed certain men to fight against those that were in the fortress until he had cleansed the sanctuary. So he chose priests of blameless conversation, such as had pleasure in the law. So what Judas did, there was a fortress that we had talked about earlier that was over there by the temple. He had sent men to go and basically kill those men and then cleanse the sanctuary. And then he chose priests. He chose Levites that were blameless in conversation, meaning their behavior was blameless. Okay, there wasn't a nigga with precepts. Okay, and had pleasure in the law. Okay, so he got the right kind of men to basically reset everything. Okay. Who cleansed the sanctuary and bear out the defiled stones into the unclean place. And when, as they consulted what to do with the altar of burnt offerings, which was profaned, they thought it best to pull it down, lest it should be a reproach to them, because the heathen had defiled it. Wherefore they pulled it down. So what they did, they made sure to pull all that stuff down because of the fact that the heathen was dealing with that. Okay, so that way it wouldn't be a reproach to them. Say, hey, that's the same altar that they was offering them pigs on. You know what I
mean? Yeah. That point's looked at as like just you can't get rid of the stench at that point. It's already defiled. The memory's just dead. Like you got to get rid of the stain. You got to start all over.
Yeah, exactly. Verse 46, and laid up the stones of the mountains of the temple in a convenient place, until there should come a prophet to show what should be done with them. Then they took whole stones according to the law and built a new altar according to the former. So they had to build up a new altar. So what they did was they waited, until there shall come a prophet to show what should be done with them. Okay. So he made sure we got to wait until a prophet comes up to show us what we need to do with this. Okay. Then they took whole stones according to the law and built a new altar according to the former, and made up the sanctuary and things that were within the temple, and hallowed the courts. And they made also new holy vessels, and into the temple they brought the candlestick and the altar of burnt offerings and of incense in the table. And upon that altar they burned incense, and the lamps that were upon the candlestick they lighted, that they might give light in the temple. Furthermore, they set the loaves upon the table. That's known as the showbread. So when we were in the first chapter of Maccabees 1:1, remember they took the showbread the table of the showbread. Okay, that's what it's talking about here. They spread out the veils. Remember, they took the veils as well, the crowns and all that stuff, and finished all the works which they had begun to make. Now, on the 5th and 20th day of the 9th month, which is called the month Kaslu, in the 148th year, they rose up the times in the morning and offered sacrifice according to the law upon the new altar for burnt offerings which they had made. So that's the reason why we start the Feast of Dedication on the 25th day of the 9th month. Okay? Because of this. This commemorates the rededication of the temple. That's what the Feast of Dedication is. The dedication of the temple. You have anything to say, Art?
Nah, that's just what it is. Let me no, you continue. I'm gonna pull this priest up real quick too.
Okay.
This is let's see. Let's go to Matthew. Let's go to actually. Yeah,
I think I know where you want to go. You want to go to John chapter 10, I guess.
Yeah, we go to John 10.
Okay.
Yeah. And then
you got it right here.
Yeah, go ahead.
John chapter 10 and verse 22.
No. Actually, nah, I wasn't gonna go there, but I'm not. But go ahead. You brought it out. That shows in the sense that it was going on. So go ahead.
Yeah, this is John chapter 10 and verse 22, and it was at Jerusalem the feast of dedication, and it was winter. Okay, and the feast of dedication is only found in the Apocrypha, so no Christian can actually prove otherwise that what that feast of dedication was. And if you go here, okay, as you can see, all right, this is the feast of dedication. Okay, and the word in there is actually a compound word. All right, basically to make new or to rededicate, because the word in there, kainos, this is the word kainos in the Greek, which means new. It says kainia. So eng kainia, okay, which is to what? To make new or to rededicate. And it tells you here that word in the Greek means the feast of dedication. And you see here, if you people that want to throw away the Apocrypha, Yahawashi kept the feast of dedication. And the feast of dedication, according to the blue letter, we're in John chapter 10, verse 22. It says here, dedication or consecration. In particular, the annual feast celebrated 8 days, beginning in the 25th of Kislev, the middle of our December, which right now we're in the middle of December, right?
Come on.
This is when we're beginning it. This happens to fall on the 25 days after the 9th new moon. Instituted by Judas Maccabees in 164 BC in memory of the cleansing of the temple from the pollution of Antiochus Epiphanes.
Come on, man.
Okay. So why it's important to know your history? Because Christians read the book of John all the time, and they don't, every time that comes up, they don't know what it's talking about.
Nope.
Okay.
Can't find it anywhere else but in the Apocrypha, like you stated.
Right. But that's why a Christian loses every time when you go there.
Mm-hmm.
So you had your precept?
Yeah. Had another one to kind of even signify, because this is when you put your Yahawashi lenses on, when you go into the scripts, and it just always going into the temple. Something's always going to be built up and it's going to be done again. It's a foreshadowing of Yahawashi. We go to John 2 and 18.
Con. So you said John 2 and 18?
Con. Said, then answered the Jews and said unto him, what sign showest thou unto us, seeing that thou doest these things? Yahushua answered and said unto them, destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up. Then said the Jews, 46 years was this temple in building, and wilt thou rear it up in 3 days? But he spake of the temple of his body.
Con. Yep. Because ultimately, even though we do have a temple that the Most High had made under the time of Solomon, and then we had a new temple that was made after it was torn down by the Edomites when we went into captivity under Babylon, and then we were brought back during the time of Nehemiah and Ezra, and the temple was remade, and it took 46 years was this temple in building. Basically, it took a long time to get that temple to where it eventually was. But the temple that Yahushua was referring to was his body.
Like you said, showing of showing the just the rebirth, in a sense, as Yahushua would do, die, rise on the third day. Always showing the rebuild and the new, and those that would follow him. Just as that temple was rebuilt, he was, renewed. Temple was renewed, so was Yahushua renewed, and those that will follow him under soon to come.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, now look at here, this is very interesting. In this chapter 2, look at this first Passover, cleansing the temple.
Come on.
The Yahushua was at that first Passover. So when you go into the Gospel of John, you have Yahushua coming on the scene, beginning his ministry. Then it's clearly like around spring, because you had the wedding in Cana, which usually weddings, even in the ancient world and just like it is today, are usually held in the spring or the summertime. So as you see here, you go down. The reason why he's at the temple is because the Passover was going on. So this is like literally not too long after the ministry just started. The Passover comes in, and when he's in Jerusalem, he goes to the temple. And what does he do? He basically chased out the changers and those that sold in the temple. He cleansed it. Okay. Which right before you said you went to verse 18, look what it says in 16. And he said unto them that sold doves, these things, take these things hence, make not my father's house an house of merchandise. And his disciples remembered that it was written, the zeal of thine house hath eaten me up. And that's when you go into, the sign, which he said, destroy this temple and I'll raise it up in 3 days. So, yeah, if you think about that, we'll go into another day. But we're pretty much almost done, Akim. So bear with us. Some of y'all brothers that may have fallen asleep, or maybe it's too late where y'all at. You can catch us on a replay. And if you have any questions, feel free to put it inside the video in the comment section as well. So now we're going to go ahead and go to the 53rd verse. And offered sacrifice according to the law upon the new altar. This is First Maccabees chapter 4, by the way, verse 53. And offered sacrifice according to the law upon the new altar of the burnt offerings, which they had made. Look at what time and what day of the heathen had profaned it. Even in that was it dedicated with songs and cisterns and harps and cymbals. Then all the people fell upon their face, worshiping and praising the God of heaven, who had given them good success. And so they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days and offered burnt offerings with gladness and sacrificed the sacrifice of deliverance and praise. They decked also the forefront of the temple with crowns of gold and with shields and the gates and the chambers they renewed and hanged doors upon them. Thus there very great gladness among the people, for that the reproach of the heathen was put away. Moreover, Judas and his brethren with the whole congregation of Israel ordained that the days of the dedication of the altar should be kept in their season from year to year by the space of 8 days, from the 25th day or the 25th day of the month Caslu, with mirth and gladness. At that time also they built up the Mount Sion with high walls and strong towers round about, lest the Gentiles should come and tread it down as they had done before. And they set there a garrison to keep it, and fortified but sure to preserve it, that the people might have a defense against Idumea. Meaning, so that they may have a defense against Edom, because that's who was doing it.
Come on.
And the Edomites. Okay. Georgius, Lysias were Edomites. They're not the sons of Japhet. This is where it's a cold cut for Christians when they talk about who the Greeks and the Romans were. So right there, they did it so they would have against Idumea, which is a Greek way of saying Edom. You have anything to add on this?
Nah, man. Other than it's a beautiful, again, this is a foreshadow of things to come. And of course, Yahawashi's rule will be even greater. They felt, there was a sense of maybe a little sense of exhilaration or like you said, relief, gladness, as it stated, and mirth, to rebuild, what was destroyed by the enemies. And it'll be done again under Yahawashi, and even greater certain. Now, unlike that, right, there won't be any worry about having to have a defense against Idumea. At that point, they'll be treaded upon. The enemies will be on this footstool.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a beautiful thing that we, to observe this and to continue to go and keep pushing, man. That's what we have to look forward to. Like our forefathers, if they felt that glad, imagine, how we could potentially feel, being in that moment. That it'll be times that.
That's right, man. Yeah, exactly, and that's this is something that they got delivered from, but we know that our people eventually fell after this. But in their generation they received deliverance, and the next deliverance that we'll get will be for forever deliverance and everlasting salvation, world without end. So no more of the reproach of the heathen will be upon our people. And what we do with this feast of dedication, one of the important reasons why we have to celebrate it with mirth and gladness is because we want to basically show gratitude to the Most High. Okay, even though we're in captivity, like it tells you in the law that while we're in captivity, we shall call to mind what? The blessing and the curse, right? So right now we're calling to mind the blessing. We're in the land of our captivity, we're calling to mind the blessing. Yes, we're called to mind the curses, but we need to also call to mind the blessing. Because by us calling to mind the blessing, we are showing gratitude to the Most High, even though we are yet this day in our captivity. And the Most High is pleased with that. So in these 8 days that we are in this, think highly and gladly upon, the Most High and our forefathers who were part of this deliverance, and also think about meditate on the Most High being able to do this even more miraculously again for our people in the times to come. Okay, so what we're doing, we're showing gratitude to the Most High by keeping this feast for 8 days. Talk to your brothers. Listen to some music. The brothers got music. Azariah got some music. We're gonna be jamming to some music. The brother Azariah's music. You can jam some of your old school tunes. Your little barbecue music if you want to as well while you eating. We're talking about how the Most High didn't deliver us from these Edomites in that time.
God.
Eat some of your favorite meals as well. Also, remember you can also give gifts. So you brothers and sisters that maybe live near one another, gift card. Go out somewhere, maybe pay for a meal. Y'all go get something to eat. Any small gift or whatever that you want to give to a brother or sister, this is the time to do it because this is an 8-day celebration in which we would give gifts and be glad. Okay, this is better than what any Christmas would be. If you're in an Ashkenazi Jewish family, they would be giving gifts 8 days. But us being paupers, poor people. We're not going to be able to probably do as much as they would, but in the kingdom, we'll be able to give great gifts to one another. And I know this because I knew a dude. His name, I'm not going to say his full name, but his name was Andy. I'm not going to say his last name. His name is Andy. I grew up with him. He was a so-called Jew. And when Hanukkah came, okay, which means dedication, by the way, Hanukkah. That's what it means in the Hebrew. Is Hanukkah means dedication. He would get gifts all 8 days, man. Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis. You know what I'm saying?
Dang, yeah, shoot.
BMX bikes, remote control cars.
You're getting it all.
You getting that good stuff, man. Yeah, he had bread. He had a nice little crib. He was getting real deal gifts, man. He was getting gifts every day. Okay, so their stuff was and here I am, not knowing, you know what I mean, that I'm the real Jew and he wasn't the whole time.
God.
And this guy's keeping what people call Hanukkah 8 days and getting all these gifts. Man, today I got this. He come to school the next day and talk about how he got a BMX bikes today and the next day and this, that. And we're like, man, how you getting a gift every day? He said, oh, it's Hanukkah.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Just imagine if you would have heard you would have been in your customs arc and they would have came with that.
Oh, bro, it would have been done because that was like around middle school when he did that.
Man.
Yeah, he came from those people had bread, man, and there wasn't that many small hats over where we're at. Small hats tend to live like in the richer neighborhoods, and they send their kid to all the private school, but he was going to a public. Yeah. And, he was actually a pretty good athlete, though. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, he was track and field, a sprinter. I think he ran like either the 200 or 400. He was pretty damn good too. I think he got a scholarship to some college, not like a big time, but I think he ended up getting like a track and field scholarship.
Okay.
He wanted to some school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I ain't gonna say his name because you might be able to look him up and some what is it called? Might be able to pull him on and some people can get carnal. I'm not saying y'all brothers, but on the replay, some Jake might, you know what I mean?
God,
like might Google him and be like, he got to be around 40 because the brother's 40. The brother's around 40 years old himself, and they started antagonizing him. We're trying to be at peace with all men. You know what I'm saying? We ain't trying to end up like Kanye.
Right.
We don't want to go DEFCON 3. And, you know what I'm saying?
Come on.
All right. So that should be it, man. You had anything else to say?
No, man. Hey, Shalom. Yahweh Shem Yahshua Barakatah to the brethren that stopped on. Shalom to any brothers and sisters that tuned in. You know, and we're just gonna, enjoy this feast of dedication, meditate like you mentioned, Doc, and all praises to Yahawashi Yahushua.
Khan. All praise to y'all, Bashim Yahshai. Y'all enjoy y'all's feast of dedication. And we'll probably maybe even do another one to close it out next week. So be on the lookout for that. But other than that, Shalom.
Shalom.